Before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. I want you to picture a scenario. You're a video creator specialising in history. You've been doing a bit of research online. You can hardly afford to shy away from the darker side of history, the disasters, the crimes, the engineering works on the Circle Line. But one day, suddenly, there comes a knock at the door. It's the Rozzers. Seems your online searches have made you appear suspicious. In vain you protest your innocence. What do? I mean, don't ask me, I don't have that problem. I use Surfshark VPN. I never have to worry about this nonsense thanks to its IP hiding and no-log policy. Or if I'm looking into niche subjects, I can change my online location to get around geographic restrictions and access content otherwise unavailable. Academic freedom, baby. If this sounds interesting to you, check them out via the link in the description below, which is also on screen now, and tell them I sent you by entering the code JAGO at the checkout to get 83% off and 3 months extra free. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee, which is just super. Now, let's talk about trams. At the top of Brixton Hill is a bus garage. It doesn't take a detective to work out that this used to be a tram shed, you know, what with the sign and all. And when the doors are open you can clearly see the old rails. It was built in 1923, but by then Brixton Hill already had a very impressive amount of tram history. Now, I haven't talked much about the old tram network in London, which is something I want to start remedying. The history of trams is perhaps even more complicated than the history of the tube, but let's just say for now that the second half of the 19th century saw the rapid growth of a tram network across London. Trams were smoother running and quieter than horse buses, were cheaper to build than railways or underground lines, and charged affordable fares that made them very popular. But hills were a problem. Pity the poor horse that had to haul a fully loaded tram car up a steep incline. One solution was tip horses, a horse stationed at the bottom of the hill that could be attached to the tram car to give assistance. Even so, it was a lot to ask of the hard-working horses, who had an average lifespan of only 4 years. On steeper hills it wasn't even worth bothering. But a solution to the problem was on the way, from America. In 1873, Andrew Halliday built the first cable-hauled tram in the very hilly San Francisco. It was a hit and still operates to this day. In less than 20 years, American cities could boast over 500 miles of cable tramways, and Halliday was open to overseas custom. The first cable tramway opened in 1884 to climb Highgate Hill. This was a self-contained thing, intended at least partially as a demonstration of the Halliday system. It caught the eye of the London Tramways Company, who saw potential. They had a line from Kennington to Brixton, but it stopped short of Brixton Hill. Cable haulage would let them extend up the hill to Streatham, so they hoped. The way it worked was this. Between the rails was a conduit containing a cable that was in constant motion, driven by a stationary steam engine. The trams were fitted with a gripper. When engaged, this grabbed the cable and caused the tram to be pulled along at a speed of usually around 6 to 8 miles per hour. The tramcars were standard horse trams. The actual gripper mechanism was carried on a separate trolley that could be coupled to the tramcar. These trolleys were known as dummies, which couldn't have done much for their self-esteem. The cableway was about 3 miles in length, stretching from Kennington Gate to Telford Avenue in Streatham. It opened in 1892, with an extension to Streatham Library following in 1895. For onward workings to places like Waterloo and London Bridge, the dummies would be uncoupled at the end of the cable line and horses would take the tram from there. This was the depot at the Kennington end. The concept worked pretty well, both technically and in terms of its popularity with passengers, but despite this it was to be short-lived. In 1899 the London County Council took the line over. They got rid of the dummies and had detachable gripping mechanisms fitted to the trams themselves. But they had bigger plans. It was already becoming clear that electricity was the way forward. Early electric trams had been fairly feeble things, but by the 1890s, even as the Brixton Hill line was being built, they had reached a stage where they could climb steep gradients. From 1901, the London County Council embarked on a programme of electrification. They experimented with the concept of hauling electric tram cars over the cable section in 1903. But the new trams were too heavy for the hill, so passengers had to change trams at Kennington. This was only a temporary measure, though. The people of Brixton love electricity. They even named a street after it. So it was inevitable that full electrification would come, and so in 1904 the line was closed and reopened as an electrified line. In 1905 a new tram depot was built at Telford Avenue for the electric trams, and in 1923 the Brixton Hill depot was built as an annex of this. In 1951 the trams went all together. One of the sad things about the tram network is that, being so light on infrastructure, it left very little behind when it went. Just this depot. And this one. And this junction box. And a couple of manhole covers. Okay, quite a lot of manhole covers. Alright, there are quite a lot of remnants of the tram system. Well, that's ruined that ending, hasn't it? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do hit like and subscribe for more. As always, I'd like to thank my donors on Patreon and Ko-fi for being the cable to my hill. If you'd like to join them, then check out the links in the description below. I'm planning to do more on London's tram network in future, so do keep an eye out for that. I'd also like to thank Surfshark once again for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out the link in the description below to take advantage of their generous offer. And I'll see you again very soon. Cheerio!